Oh, good morning. By popular, probably soon to be unpopular demand, decided to do a wee bit of a video on this little toy box. Our modular synthesizer, the basic idea being that instead of your normal synthesizer where you got your oscillators tied to your filters, tied to your voltage control amplifier, you're all in a fixed layout. You can hook this thing however the hell you want. You could have the oscillator going into a filter, going into another filter, going into, well, imagination is the limit really. Just to kick things off, let's try something basic. One problem with this is what you'll be using to make your connections that can turn into spaghetti quickly. I'm using this voltage controlled amplifier as a volume cut because this puts out a lot more than the amplifier is willing to deal with. Now this is with just a simple square wave coming out, no controls. I can set the frequency here. I can set the pulse width modulation. I can also pick whether it's a square wave, a sawtooth wave, or a triangle wave. Now it sounds really boring with just one note and having a twiddle, so this is where we use a sequencer, this thing. The idea being it can spit out a sequence of notes, hence the name. So the control voltage input of the oscillator, we grab an output from the sequencer. Problem being, sequencer no move. So we need to get a clock signal going into the sequencer. So here's my little low frequency oscillator. The clock output of that going into the clock input of the sequencer. So now it's slowly stepping through. Slowly. So let's put the speed up a bit. Put the sound back up. Now you can hear the different notes stepping through. While it has a certain something to it, it's still, it could be a bit more interesting. So let's take the output of the oscillator and grab it from a filter. See, this is what I mean about patch cords. You'll be using a lot of them. We use the square wave so we get even more frequency harmonics coming through. You move the frequency of the filter completely out of the range of the signal coming out. Kills everything, especially because it's bandpass. Go to high pass, lets everything through. Pull it back. You can get some really weird effects when you get close to the edge of the cutoff for the frequency range you're playing with, if that makes sense. Go back to low pass. Everything cut off again. Pull the resonance back a bit. That's more like it. There's that famous filter sweep. Let's bring in some resonance. This is where the filter is feeding back in on itself as well as the input frequency. Gets more and more squirrely the closer you get to self-oscillation. Mind you, this filter here is a bit squirrely sometimes. Let's try a different filter. Let's try our mini Moog. Sounds a lot smoother, this one. That sound there is with just the filter feeding in on itself and self-oscillating. Actually, one nice neat thing you can do with that is grab another CV output from the sequencer. Now watch this. Now that sound is just from the filter feeding back. Let's dial back the signal back in. This is the audio cutter. So you can get that really neat two-note thing going on. Difference being, the oscillator is running off this side of the sequencer. The filter self-oscillation is running off this side. As you can see, they're a little bit close, but on the last half especially, the sequences are completely different. Now, say we want to really fatten it up a bit. Rip out all those patch cords. Now let's use these oscillators. They're a bit more primitive than my posh one, but yeah, it's a bit of the charm. So let's have both of those going in here. Problem being, now you've got two CVs here and one glide output here. This is where the beauty of it comes in. You just use even more modules. In this case, jack multiplier. Got this one from SJ on the Mad Bean forums. Does what it says on the tin. So in this case we're taking the orange cable here and multiplying it over these two. If I wanted, I could add even more things to branch off this cable here with these empty sockets. So let's have the volume back up and see what we got. Now, I haven't made any particular effort to dial the tracking on these, so they're not hugely close together, but you get the idea. The less close they are, the more it fattens the sound up, I think. Now, you're probably wondering what this thing is. Short answer, it's a phaser. Long answer, it's a phaser for a modular, designed for 5U, not for my normal Euro rack like this is, more for a traditional mode modular. The guy who made it has passed away, so I didn't really want to hack around with too much with it, simply to see what his original vision was like. You can hear the phasing a bit here. Resonance, frequency, depth. Pitch. And of course, ye old volume. Yeah, so this is really just the tip of the iceberg. You can play with the note scaling here, multiple filters. One fun thing is to have one of them just going into self-oscillation and patched into another filter. Then you go through several other things. This can do vibrato instead of phasing, do stereo as well. Well, your imagination's the limit, really. You can add more sequences. You don't just need to be limited to just the one, although this is a hell of a sequencer. And in case you're wondering, this has just been used as a glorified power supply for that. It isn't actually doing anything other than providing plus minus 15 volts. Let me know your response on the forums. Hope you enjoyed.